Okay, so yes, I'm James. I play as alone. I'm just speaking to the microphone rather than anyone. And yeah, that is the sort of noise which I make. So, I was supposed to press that first, that's the music. So there's some facts about me. I was born in 1985, blah blah blah. And some other things there very quickly. Let's skip over that. That's a brief discography. I've actually done things. I started making music in actually 2003 when I got my first bass guitar, yay. And then in 2004 I released an EP, and then I went to university and sort of didn't do anything while I was at university apart from make fine art, because that's where I came here, and it was very fun. I did video and all sorts of great fun. And then by 2011 I'd graduated, and then I was sort of like, I should make some more music again, so I did, and I started using Logic, and I play a lot of guitar live as well. So I released an EP, and then I'd never actually played live until after I released the EP, so I came to the point where I was like, how am I going to play all this music? I use lots of layers and things because obviously I'm a bedroom musician, and I just go off on one with layers and orchestrations and things like that, and I don't know that many people, so I didn't really have enough people who I could say, hey, can you play that for me? So I was like, how can I do this myself? And I played my first live show with this sort of setup in January last year, and I've been played on Radio 1, woo. And I also supported Hexstatic on Ninja Tune, which is probably my proudest achievement to date. That was in October. So, what do I use to play live? I use, let's go through the boring stuff first of all. There is an 8-channel mixer in there, a Midi through, because everything's powered by Midi. There's a guitar looper, which I obviously don't have here right now. There's a looper and a pedal board with lots of delay pedals, because delay is like my favourite sound in the world. There's also an MPC 500 for like samples of drums and things. And I've got a little Chaos pad thing up there as well, which makes the whooshy noise. Getting on to the more interesting things now. There is also a NES in there. I wish I had turned this round because there's cables everywhere. But underneath this MPC is a NES made in 1985. To get decent audio out of a NES, you have to modify it, because for some reason they put the audio output on the video right next to the power unit. So it makes a nice buzzing noise. So what you do is, according to that technical diagram there, there's the audio pins, and you plug in your wires there, and then at the bottom there you can see where they come out. It's a bit more technical than that. I actually wrote a guide on how to do it because I couldn't find one online. There was lots of little tips and tricks on how to do it, but there wasn't like a specific guide, and I need step-by-step instructions to do anything, so that helped. To actually make it make music though, you need a special cartridge. And in that NES is a Midi cartridge, which is a customised cartridge built by this chap called Wayfar. I don't think that's his real name. You can't get them anymore, sadly. You can find them on eBay occasionally, and you can still order them on his website, but he's been in trouble by not actually sending them to people, so I don't recommend trying to get one apart from off eBay. With that, you can use the NES's sound chip to get 5 channels of audio out. So that's 5 channels. You get 2 pulse channels, 1 triangle, a noise, and a sample thing. I also run, as you can probably see at the top here, that's a Game Boy Advance. And the Game Boy Advance is running another custom cartridge with a program called MGB, which stands for Midi Game Boy. And to get the Midi signals from the sequencer to the Game Boy, you need to use a thing called an Arduino board, which uses a wonderful little Arduino project board, and you can plug your Midi cable in, and then it outputs signals that the Game Boy can understand through its link port. And that's this box here, because I'm not particularly good at packaging my electronics, and I just tend to hack boxes open, and sometimes with a soldering iron, and it makes me feel weird. So don't do that when you need to cut them. Use proper tools. But or well-ventilated space. And you store it on a flash cartridge. Now, flash cartridges are actually still another thing which is quite hard to get hold of for Game Boys and other software. The main reason is they're actually illegal in this country to bring them in. But you can still order them from America, and they don't seem to, no one stopped my packages so far. So, yay. The one which I use the most is one called this one on the left here, which is called a Dragon Dirt car, made by a chap called Professor Abrasive, which is a great name. And providing some additional backup to the NES and the Game Boy, I've got two open source DIY synths, the Midi and the Prezie I. Both of those come as kits. You can buy them online, and then you build them, practice your soldering, and they make nice mono sounds. So most of the bass lines which I use these two to create that, because they've got a bit more tonal variety. And one thing about using a NES is that there's no bass in it, which is one reason why you add the modification, because then the bass comes out a second channel, and you can boost it, but it still doesn't boost that much. So I thought, hey, I've got some spare channels, I'll use those instead. Finally, I need something which ties it all together. Now, one thing which I really hated about seeing live electronic music was seeing people just stood behind laptops, which is primarily the reason why I did all of this. It turns out a laptop's a lot lighter, so... What I ended up using was, I had access to an iPad, and this Midi sequencer came out, which is called Genome. Absolutely fantastic, because it works in the way which I work, because I'm not professionally trained as a musician, I can't read music, but I like seeing patterns and I like seeing things visually. And this is a very visual sequencer. You make your sequences into little blocks, and you address which channel you want them to go to, and then you just trigger each block as a pattern of music. It creates your songs. You can get up to 16 channels, because it's using MIDI, you can use 16 channels. So that's 5 channels from the NES, 4 channels come out of the Game Boy. The Midi and the Prezie take up another 2 channels, and then I've got 2 channels for the MPC for the drums and any additional samples, which leaves me a little bit of leeway if I need to add any more, but unfortunately I don't have any more sockets on my mixer, so I'm pretty much stuck with that as is. So that's how I make music live using these old school video game hardware and some open source stuff and a bit of Arduino. There's lots of other things which you can do with game consoles and handhelds, which I find fascinating, because that's how I actually started making music. Was the first piece of music software, I dug it out. It's this music creation for the PlayStation endorsed by Judge Jules. And it got 9 out of 10, which is why I bought it. I started using this in 1998, and thankfully when I tested the memory card, which I thought had music on it, it had wiped it, so you don't get to hear any of that, and I don't want you to. So there's other software available for the Game Boy, which was sort of my first sort of retro, when I got into using things like Game Boys and things, because I had a Game Boy just lying around. I wanted to know how I could use it more creatively.